Hi, it's Michael Dean, and this is my fourth episode after my first three episodes I published last week. Um, and then before I get going, I did want to make a couple comments. I got people keep asking me, hey, does subscribe mean I have to pay for something? No, subscribe means you tap on that subscribe, and as I provide updates, you get notification that's an update to this channel has been done. So it's not going to cost you anything, but it is a way for you to kind of stay up with as I add different things to this. So again, this is going to be the fourth episode. I keep getting this question about um, Chat GPT versus Google, and this is really to do a comparison between the two. And with that, um, I just we'll kind of go forward here and look at it, but let's go watch um, the presentation. It's a very short video, but it kind of shows you kind of the difference between the two and the real powerful of ChatGPT. And by the way, that's not to say I don't use Google. I use Google a lot. And I just think that ChatGPT, some of the power it has and some of the comparisons I use here, has got some really strong things that help save time, help create conversation, help create follow up, and it does things way different than what Google does, even though I use Google for a lot of things like etc. So with that, let's go watch kind of this comparison I have. Okay, we're gonna do a ChatGPT versus Google view here. Um, Before I get going on that, though, I'd just like to say if you want to download or want to understand how to get ChatGPT, it's in the links below for how to do it with an iPhone, how to do it on your desktop computer, how to do it with an iPad, or even how to do it on an Android device. So if you need to do that, if you need to see more and you want to go really see how it's done, I did that in my first three videos, and you can see it in detail how I did that with the iPhone. Otherwise, if you got any concerns about that or have any questions about that or need some help, just let me know. And let's go talk about ChatGPT versus Google. This is a side-by-side benefits analysis I did on what the feature and use cases are of ChatGPT versus Google. It's not 100% accurate. It's just, a view of the world. I did do this by doing a search within ChatGPT to generate this. What was more interesting was how they were able to summarize it all and put it into a table here, so I could just put this into the whole screen. Anyway, from a side by side standpoint, um, there's a bunch of use cases here, and we'll kind of go through all these and kind of tell you what they all really mean. From an answer quality standpoint, ChatGPT is human-like answers. It summarizes things in a human way, gives you kind of a natural response. It talks to you back and forth. It's almost like it's talking to you from a human standpoint. You can ask it questions. It'll come back and ask you questions. You can keep asking for clarification. You can keep asking it to update. You can say, no, that's not what I meant. All that kind of stuff. And it does that in a very human-like way. Whereas Google just provides, at this point really is more about links to info you must dig into and go through. It's not to say Google's not good. I use Google quite a bit. And, it's good to get stuff for like if you want to do it yourself stuff and you want to, got to dig through that. And I think Google will improve in some of these areas that ChatGPT is doing as AI becomes more part of Google. I think that's more like off the Gemini side, but I'm not aware of that strategy and how they're exactly doing that. I'm just kind of doing kind of how Google works today and how I see power coming out of ChatGPT. The next area is this whole speed to insight. I think this is a huge thing with ChatGPT. It's one of the things I find is how much it saves you time on lots of things that would take you weeks to do or a lot of time to do or a couple days to do. Whereas Google really just requires browsing multiple sites often to get to the answer you're looking for. And then another area is this whole area of complex tasks. This is kind of a popular area, I think, with where ChatGPT is really helping a lot of people across the board. It helps you, write essays, generate recipes for food you're trying to create. some of these complex tasks, and it can rewrite a letter you've done. You can provide that letter, or you can have your resume updated off of that. You can do all kinds of things, and it will clarify it, improve it, make it sound better, etc. Whereas on Google, you just got to gather the content yourself to kind of do all that. The other big powerful thing is this whole conversational follow-up. Google or ChatGPT understands context. It remembers where you've been. So if you've been on and done something in the past and you've asked another question, it may come back and say, hey, do you want me to provide this answer or add to this answer what I did before? And it allows you to have that conversational follow-up. Likewise, I can go back to ChatGPT and say, I don't think you understood what I was saying. Can you please revise? So there's this whole interaction thing that goes on back and forth, that on Google, each search just starts fresh. And I think this is a very powerful part of ChatGPT. But even more powerful, I think, is where things are going to go with these creative help, helping you get ideas and helping you brainstorm. Whereas Google's limited to existing content, kind of an idea, kind of where brainstorming or ideas would come. Think about writing a book. It would help you outline the chapters. It might help you outline the book or the screenplay or whatever you're trying to do, and kind of help you do all that from a creative standpoint. There's all kinds of examples, and I think that as we move forward here, we'll get into a lot of those type of deal. I also though think this whole data analysis is a very powerful area, and where ChatGPT is going to really help a lot of people. You can ask it to go look at a 30-page research paper and summarize what it says, or you can ask it to go look at a spreadsheet and explain what the spreadsheet says. It's not going to always be right. You got to check it. So, but it allows that interaction going back and forth so that you can kind of look at some of this stuff. Whereas Google's really about, how-to links or forums. Like, I want to do a, do it myself thing on fixing something I have around a home. And I can usually find a do-it-yourself link within those forums of Google to do that. So Google's very good for that. I use it all the time. Again, some of this stuff is going to get really more powerful, I think, as Google moves more toward AI, probably with the with the Gemini project that Google has, but I could be wrong. And that's kind of where that sits. So if I look at planning, we've already done a bunch of planning on the very first video I did in terms of how I plan out on vacation time. And I just think you can plan out all kinds of things. You can plan parties. You can plan a birthday party. You can plan your kid's birthday party. You can plan out different recipes. You can plan out all kinds of itineraries and build out plans. Whereas I think in Google you can get some of that, but you generally results in you need to filtering. And then if we looked at privacy, I don't know that I'm comfortable with the whole privacy area, even in ChatGPT. On my third video, if you went back and watched that, you'd see that I'm very cautious about what information I put into ChatGPT. I don't want to put my social security number. I don't want to put my bank account information. I don't want to put a lot of things about me in there. And when it gets into medical stuff, I'm even more cautious. And, I showed it in my video how to kind of, instead of like putting that information in there, to kind of start asking it questions in a conversational way, like from up above, and it give it information back. And, Google itself is really more about tracking you for ads and targeting you based on those ads and et cetera. And then lastly, this whole area around web browsing, it can fetch current info and browsing. Google's always up to date and online. I don't know that there's a huge difference between those two. But again, when you start putting in this conversational follow-up and some of the creative things you can do and some of the data analysis you can do, the whole idea of ChatGPT becomes more powerful as you browse through and do things. So with that, I want to go through and just show a really quick use case comparison, how to plan a healthy meal. Here's the scenario. You want to plan a healthy dinner using chicken and vegetables. That's high in protein, low in carbs, and under 500 calories. So we go in and do that under the ChatGPT. When we plan that meal, you type in or you speak it on your computer or iPhone or iPad. Plan me a healthy dinner using chicken and vegetables that is high in protein, low in carbs, and under 500 calories. ChatGPT responds, grilled lemon chicken with roasted broccoli and cauliflower mash. Protein 42 grams, carb carb count, calorie count, includes the ingredients and step-by-step instructions, and offers to create a shopping list if you have to go to the grocery store and buy this stuff. Now, you might not like what it came back with, so you can always go back to, here's an example. You go back to ChatGPT and say, give me another option because that one doesn't sound very good for me, and it will keep iterating back and forth with you on that kind of stuff. Likewise, with using Google, you search healthy chicken and vegetables, low carb dinner under 500 calories. Google comes back and shows multiple blog links, like 12 healthy chicken recipes. And you got to go figure out which one you like. It'll click a few, scroll past Pat's ads, extract recipes manually. Takes longer, more effort to compare and choose. Now, that's not to say that you can't get a good recipe out of Google. It's just, I think the way that ChatGPT interfaces with you is just much different and much more powerful. And then in summary, let's look at ChatGPT versus Google. Can you get a recipe in one step under ChatGPT? Yes. Under Google? No. Can you get a personalized response in ChatGPT? Yes. Google? Not really. Not to say that it's not going to improve on that in the future. Time to result? Yes. Under ChatGPT, very fast. Under Google, a lot slower, just because you got to filter through all this stuff. But I think they both are fast. So I don't know, that it's the time to result is fast because of it's really fast because of the way ChatGPT is able to give you a direct response right back. And then convenience, it's all in one with ChatGPT. Google's about link hunting, going through a bunch of websites that may provide for you and that they're tracking you on from an ad standpoint. And then this whole custom follow-ups. ChatGPT allows a lot of follow-up where you interact going back and forth. You say, hey, I don't like what you said, or I don't think you understood what I said, and does all that. And whereas in Google, you got to just keep starting over. So in summary, that's kind of a summary of how I see ChatGPT versus Google. And that is the end of our ChatGPT versus Google. If you like what you saw, please check subscribe to this channel, and you'll get future updates. And I would appreciate any comments or questions or ideas that you have or things that you might want to see. And I look forward to you in our next video. And again, thank you for being part of my channel. Thank you.